Alright guys, welcome to another episode of RC Pit Stop. What you have just seen was me working on the Hobby King BZ888 1/8 scale buggy. Now normally in my RC Pit Stops I kind of show you what I'm going to do to the car, talk about it a little bit, and then I may show you some updates or some, in this case, some time-lapse video. But unfortunately, for the second time this year, I've had a massive brain fart, and somehow along the way I deleted some of the original footage that I had when I was working on this buggy. So we're kind of watching this a little bit backwards. The car's obviously is already all done. I've had a bit of a run with it as well. I've also done some speed tests with it. And I can tell you that this thing performs incredibly well now that I'm going to show you what I've done to it. I'm going to talk to you about some of the modifications I've done to this car and some of the upgrades that I've installed as well. So let's take the body off quickly. We'll start from the inside and work our way out a little bit. You can see I've got the Badlands with some different rims on here, but we'll start on the inside just quickly. What I did with this guy is I took out the stock motor, and my friend Paul had this motor kind of lying around. He didn't have use for it. This is the Castle 2400 kV brushless motor. It is, I think, about 72 or 71 millimeters long. It just fits in here. You can see that there's very, very little gap there. This is probably about as big as you're going to be able to fit in this buggy due to the space that you have between the motor mount and the steering column just here. I am running still, I believe it's a 19 tooth pinion gear, which was the original pinion that I kind of upgraded on the stock motor. And let me tell you, on 4S, this thing absolutely flies. I can't wait to show you how it performs. We actually did an RC Race Wars up against the Typhon, and I'm not going to give anything away as yet, but I think you will be pleasantly impressed. Now, originally I was running a Servo in here. I kind of pinched that from one of my other RCs. That RC needed it back, so I took it out and I installed this new steering servo from Hobby King. It is the TS900. Not quite sure if it's going to show up properly on camera there, but this is actually quite a nice steering servo. A couple of things to note though, it is a little bit taller than the stock one, and these servo mounts aren't really just tall enough. So what I ended up having to do was put a little bit of a washer just underneath the between the servo mount and the servo. There's a washer in there, and there's also, I'll put a couple of washers up top here as well to secure it nicely in place. I'm using a fairly generic kind of a steering servo horn there, and this steering arm, you can see how it's kind of mounted. I've had to put a couple of washers in here to raise up the steering arm here, otherwise it would have been on a very awkward angle. This setup is probably more ideal for servo horns that have the steering arm working underneath the actual servo horn. Unfortunately, this is not the case, and that's what I ended up having to do. It works fine. I just had to put a bit of an extra long screw there, and it is good to go. Still running the 100 amp ESC that it came with out of the box. I also had to switch out the on and off switch because the stock one disintegrated, and if you guys remember, my Creighton ESC went up in smoke quite a number of months ago, but I kept it for some silly reason, and this was actually a good thing because I managed to salvage the switch out of that blown ESC and install it into here. And I kind of hardwired it straight into the switch itself, which worked out really, really well. It was actually quite easy to do. A little fiddly, but very easy to do, and it works out very nicely. I also rebuilt my 3 diffs. Now, I've kind of done a little bit of a mistake here with the diffs. I used the same formula that I use for my monster trucks, which is to go with 100,000, 500,000, and 100,000 in the front. For a buggy, that's probably not an ideal setup. It makes the buggy very lively. It makes it a little bit squirrely. I'm probably going to leave the front and rear diffs as they are, but I may reduce the center diff down to perhaps 100,000 or maybe even 200,000 weight, that is. and hopefully that makes it a little bit more forgiving when you drive it. But it does go, and it is a very, very fun car to drive. Now, shock towers. Of course, I swapped out my aluminium shock towers and went for some carbon fiber. These are actually really good. After driving the car, doing the RC race wars, the car did take a few hits, and surprisingly, these things are holding up really, really well. They're actually quite thick as well. I think they're about 4, maybe even 5 millimeters thick, these things. Very nice carbon shock towers, carbon fiber shock towers, so very impressed with that. Also stiffened up my springs. You can see the red springs on the shocks. I got a new set of springs. I found the suspension was a little bit soft on this guy. It's a little bit more set up for bashing now than it is racing, so this in addition with the heavy duty diff oils that I've installed here, does make the car very lively and, as I said, a little bit squirrely to drive. But just for general fun and for a bit of bashing, I can tell you this is an absolute blast to drive with this motor, with this gearing, with this entire setup. So really, really happy with the outcome so far. Tyres, I've gone for the trusty Badlands. These guys, on the terrain that I run on, these are absolutely awesome. They hook up, whether it'll be on the gravel or on the grass. They just spit out rooster tails for days. Really happy with the Badlands overall. I believe I did puncture these from memory. I can't quite remember if I punctured these or not. Just to allow a little bit of air to come out of them. The wheels, I actually picked these wheels up off eBay, but I've recently found that Hobby King also sell these wheels. Yeah, they're fairly cheap, fairly easy to do. You just put your tires on there and away you go. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with this guy. Very happy with the performance that it's putting out at the moment with this Castle motor. Of course, you know, when it comes to reviewing this car, I'm not going to obviously rate it on the upgrades that I've done, because that's slightly unfair. But in stock form, you know, this guy does do reasonably well. But now I've sort of gone up a couple of notches and given it something else to really admire about this buggy. So I'm very happy with it, and as I said, I can't wait to show you how it performs because it definitely gets up in boogies now. I'm still waiting for Hobby King to bring out some clear bodies like this. I really want to change the color scheme on this guy. I don't have anything against this body. I just want to, you know, after changing out tires and putting my own little flavor on it, this is the last thing to do, and I'm really hoping that Hobby King can bring out some clear bodies like this, just so I can paint it up myself and do my own thing. But that is it for this RC pit stop, guys. Sorry, it's a little bit backwards compared to my other episodes, but you know, as I said, I lost some of the original footage, so I had to sort of improvise a little bit here and just show you the finished product along with the time-lapse footage that I had. That is it for this video. Please be sure to check out the video description down below. I'll have links in there to previous videos on this car, as well as a link to the Hobby King website for you guys to check out any more information that you need to on the BZ888. And also I'll have a link in there for my Facebook page, which of course will keep you a couple of steps ahead of what goes on here on YouTube. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will speak to you next time.